Marcus stood pensively on the bridge of the Sovereign, gazing out the viewport at the planet Eos below. It had been 6 days since he extended the offer to Governor Elara. Join the Imperium or face the consequences. Now the deadline approached, yet no response had come. He wondered how the population was reacting. Were they embracing the opportunity, or resisting integration into the sprawling imperial bureaucracy? Marcus knew the Imperium could be stifling, yet also provided order and security. His ruminations were interrupted by Lieutenant Julius. Captain, the latest auger sweep has detected more spatial distortions, concentrated around the southern gravitational pole. Their frequency is increasing. Marcus turned, just like the other incidents. Julius nodded. Yes, sir. Chief Engineer Cassius believes he has found a pattern to the disturbances. He requests to brief you on his findings. Very well. I will come down to engineering. Marcus stroked his chin. First the Jella field breach, now these distortions. Were they connected to this system's unknown properties? He strode through grey corridors until arriving at the engine room's heavy doors. Inside, Cassius stood peering at a cogitator display, surrounded by banks of machinery and cables. The air smelled of ozone and machine oil. Chief, report on these disturbances. Cassius turned, his face smeared with grease. Sir, I have run predictive analysis on the incidents. When you plot their locations and times, a pattern emerges. He gestured to the cogitator, which showed a map of the system overlaid with markers and trajectories. Here is every recorded distortion. When viewed together, they form what looks to be a web of some sort, surrounding the Sovereign. Holographic lines connected the markers, forming an intricate spherical lattice around the ship. Marcus inspected the display. A web, you say? Extending how far? As far as our augers can detect. Its fractal structure allows it to permeate the entire system at all scales. I calculate it is interacting with space, and possibly the very warp itself. This could explain the issues we have had since the signal. Any idea what could generate such a phenomenon? Marcus asked. Cassius shook his head. None so far, but the web appears centered on the planet. I recommend asking some probing questions directed at those planet-side and further investigation of this web. Marcus nodded. Begin at once, and send a priority Vox transmission to Imperial Command. Update them on the situation and our progress with the inhabitants. Attach all sensor data as evidence. Right away, sir. Marcus returned to the bridge, lost in thought. First the gremlins affecting the ship, the subtle power readings on a supposedly inert monument, and now this web structure. Nothing here is adding up, and Marcus began to get a bad feeling that events may be rapidly coming to a head. Was it a natural phenomenon, or evidence of something sinister? The Imperium would provide answers once his message reached them. Hours passed. His crew diligently monitored the expanding Auspex scans and sent regular updates. Marcus analyzed each bit of new data, hoping to glean insights, but the web's nature continued to elude explanation. The planet Eos loomed large, its pristine continents and oceans belying the mysteries they contained. Captain, we're receiving an astropathic transmission. Marcus turned to see Ensign Summers looking up from her console, one hand pressed to the headset she wore. Patch it through to the central hololith, Marcus ordered. Summers' fingers danced across glowing keys and runes as she established a secure link to the incoming transmission. At her command, the hololith flickered to life, projecting a ghostly image of an astropath into the air. The woman's eyes were vacant, clouded white orbs that saw nothing, but her voice rang clear through the bridge as she recited her message. To the Imperial Navy vessel, Sovereign, this is Astropath Kara, assigned to Battlefleet Obscurus. I am relaying a priority message from Lord Admiral Octavius. He commands you maintain vigil over the planet Eos until our arrival. You must not allow any ships to leave the system. Secure orbit over the energy source they identified as the birthstone, and observe it closely. Do not inform the populace we are aware of its significance. A fleet carrying 2 regiments of Adeptus Astartes is en route to your position. We will take over the investigation upon our arrival." The transmission ended abruptly. Marcus stood silent, processing the new orders. What had he uncovered here? Why were such vast Imperial resources being dispatched? There was more to this planet than it seemed. He turned to Julius. "Signal the navigator, assume orbit over the southern pole. Keep scans trained on the anomaly below, and alert gunnery crews to intercept any craft attempting to leave Eos." Julius nodded grimly. "At once, sir." The pieces were in motion. Marcus watched the planet slowly rotate beneath them as the Sovereign assumed its new position. What fate awaited these people? He did not know, but the Imperium's might was coming, and when it arrived all would be made clear. It was later that day that the Sovereign was signaled by Eos that they were ready to make a decision on the ultimatum laid out before them less than a week earlier. Marcus quickly assembled a team to accompany him down to the surface, eager to finally conclude things, although he would keep his sensor readings close to his chest for now. Marcus stepped off the Imperial shuttle, flanked by his senior officers. The lush forests and azure seas of Eos surrounded the landing platform, a testament to the planet's seamless integration of nature and technology. Governor Elara awaited them, standing tall in flowing white robes. "Welcome, Captain Marcus," she said warmly. "Please come. The Council awaits you." They were led through graceful archways, seemingly grown from living stone and liquid metal. The architecture was unlike any human design Marcus had seen. The council chamber was a massive rotunda with a soaring dome, ringed with terraced seats. Marcus was guided to the centre as the councillors filled the tiers, regarding him silently. Elara took her place at the head of the assembly. "People of Eos," she proclaimed, "Captain Marcus comes before us to discuss the Imperium's offer of unity. Let us speak openly and weigh this matter carefully." Captain Marcus met their penetrating gaze evenly as the intense debate began. He proceeded to explain in detail the supposed benefits of accepting Imperial rule, the promise of human solidarity, access to advanced Imperial technology, and the might of the Imperium's vast military forces. But many of the councillors quickly questioned the rigid, authoritarian structure and cold pragmatism that defined much of Imperial governance and society. "You ask us to forfeit our hard-won independence and proud traditions," one elder statesman challenged, his expression etched with concern. "But for what true gain, beyond base security and material wealth?" Another venerated elder leaned forward, her wizened expression solemn and searching as she met Marcus's stoic gaze. "Your Imperium speaks often of strength through unity, yet we have found unity through understanding and community. Your way brings order through force and rigid control. Ours through wisdom, discourse, and nurturing the spirit." Marcus listened silently with an impassive demeanour as the councillors thoroughly dissected the Imperium's flaws and hypocrisies with piercing insight and astute observations. They saw through the shallow promises of security and power to the corruption, xenophobia and cruelty that also characterized much of Imperial culture and expansionism, without blind, zealous fervour. Marcus rose slowly to his feet. His steely gaze remained fixed on the councillors, who watched him intently. "I have travelled far across the stars to come here and listen to your words," he began, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. "I have heard your fears and your hopes for your people and your world. I have borne witness to the unique society you have built here on Eos, one of harmony between nature and technology, of unity through understanding. Your words have given me much to ponder." Marcus paused, considering his next words carefully. "Yet still, I await your decision. My duty compels me to once again ask plainly, what say you, Planet Eos, to the Imperium's offer of membership among humanity's domain?" His words rumbled with solemn authority, his piercing eyes studying each councillor in turn as he posed his question. Though his expression remained impassive, he keenly felt the weight of this moment, here on an alien world, so far from sacred terror. The Councillor's answer could steer the course of Eos's future among the stars, and that of many worlds beyond. The Council members weighed Marcus's solemn words carefully, their expressions pensive. After several moments of contemplative silence, Governor Elara raised a hand to call the Council of Representatives to order. "It is time to cast our vote on the matter before us," she announced, her voice clear and steady. One by one, each representative voiced their decision. Though some dissented, the majority inclined towards accepting the Imperium's offer of unity, swayed not by promises of glory or protection, but because they were human. They were alone, and now they were found. As the tally was counted, Marcus felt a flicker of satisfaction begin to emerge. The negotiations had been delicate, but it seemed his efforts had borne fruit. He began to allow himself a small smile of success. But before Marcus's smile could fully form, Governor Elara raised her hand once more, her expression suddenly grave. "A moment, please," she interjected, her tone firm yet composed. "There is yet one more perspective we must consider before this matter is settled. Matria herself has not yet voiced her view." Captain Marcus was perplexed for an instant by that final remark and the hushed tone that followed it, but had little time to consider it further as Elara continued. "One last question, Captain, before we ratify this joyous moment. Your ship has taken keen interest in our relic, the birthstone. While such curiosity is expected, after all, it's an impressive structure. What concerns me is the intensity of the scans and other coincidences. We ask just one thing, Captain, that in joining us to the Imperium, the birthstone remains in Eosian care." Marcus stiffened, his shoulders tensing as he processed Elara's words. Securing potential SCT artifacts was standard Imperial procedure, enacted across the galaxy whenever unknown technology was discovered. He had witnessed it countless times over his long career. The intense scans and interest shown in the relic known as the birthstone were only to be expected given its unknown nature and advanced design. The message from Mars had made Command's stance abundantly clear. The artifact would need to be claimed in the name of the Imperium for study and reverse engineering. Relinquishing such a prize was simply an impossible request. Marcus mulled over how to delicately convey this to Elara in a way that gave nothing away about his superior's intentions. His decades of experience told him that neither he nor the governor would have any say in the final outcome. The cold machinery of the Imperium would claim its prize one way or another. Choosing his words with care, Marcus formulated a response, hoping to soften the blow by emphasizing the Imperium's desire for cooperation and minimizing mention of the artifact. He knew that being too direct about the Imperium's intentions could irreparably damage relations with Governor Elara. Marcus began to highlight the potential benefits of an alliance, appealing to her pragmatic side with promises of protection and resource exchange. He noted that, ultimately, the birthstone was an inert structure, and although heritage and custom are significant, they should not endanger this crucial judgment. But before Marcus could finish, an icy silence descended upon the room. Elara's formerly warm and engaging demeanour vanished, replaced by a stern, uncompromising expression. Her gaze hardened as she stared at Marcus, her eyes burning with determination. When she finally spoke, it was in formal tones that brooked no debate or argument. "Captain, I will speak plainly and without deception, something I can see in your attempt, if not your execution. Plainly, you have become aware that the birthstone is in fact not a simple monument. We tried to hide this from you, and for that we apologize. But understand this, Captain, we hid the truth out of consideration for you, not because we were jealous or afraid. We have been alone for a long time, Captain, and admit in our longing to return to humanity's embrace and its great struggle, but you cannot demand that we do so." You cannot demand that of us, and demand what is ours be freely given or taken by force. After careful consideration of your offer, I can see that we will ultimately have more to lose than we have to gain. The sacrifice too great. The planet Eos, under my authority as its appointed governor, formally refuses integration with the Imperium in its entirety. There will be no negotiation or concessions on this matter. Eos will steadfastly maintain its independence and autonomy over its own affairs, and we will accept any and all consequences resulting from our decision. I wish in my heart that we could have met under different circumstances, my friend, for I still hold you in the highest esteem, Captain Marcus. Governor Elara spoke these words with conviction, her expression stoic yet regretful. Without further communication or signal from her, the Eosian delegation slowly began leaving the negotiation chamber, their footfalls echoing in the vast hall. One by one they filed out until the room was completely empty, leaving Marcus and his retinue alone amongst the vacant seats and tables. The weight of Eos' defiance sat heavily upon the captain as he contemplated his next actions. Though he had expected this outcome, Marcus could not help but feel the pangs of disappointment and frustration at the failure of diplomacy, a sentiment shared by the officers around him. With a deep, resigned breath, Marcus accepted that this first contact had not achieved the peaceful resolution he had privately hoped for. There would be harsh consequences now for the people of Eos. He steeled himself, recognizing the Imperium's mechanisms would grind inexorably into motion. Marcus knew it fell to him to inform the greater authorities of this day's events. He expected new directives would arrive soon, outlining the Imperium's response. Gazing at the empty negotiation chamber, Marcus mourned that the fate of Eos had likely already been determined. Though he had argued for patience and understanding, the captain understood that the Imperium's patience had limits. Its mechanisms did not cater well to defiance.